Hey y'all, Jamie here, back with another episode of Milk, Honey, and Mayhem. Today, we're going on a journey through the shadows of history and talking about things that folks don't usually say out loud. Whispers behind closed doors, rites performed in candlelit basements, oaths taken and held close. We're digging into some secret societies, those hidden brotherhoods that have shaped history from the shadows. Now, some people say that secrets ain't meant to be kept, but others believe that they're the glue that holds the world together. Now, here in the United States, the law defines fraternal orders as voluntary, nonprofit associations established for the mutual aid and sociability of their members. But long before there was ever a Freemason in Tennessee, there were secrets carved in stone halfway around the world. The Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece held their rituals so sacred no one ever spoke a word of what happened along those torch-lit paths, though the story goes that they convened with the dead. And over in Egypt, the priests of Isis held their own rites, and in Rome, soldiers gathered in the name of Mithras. See, secrecy wasn't just about hiding, it was about protecting power and transformation. Fast forward to the Crusades and we meet the Knights Templar, warrior monks who took vows of poverty and built an empire of wealth. They were builders, bankers, and according to legend, the keepers of the Holy Grail. Now the Knights Templar were a military order of Catholic faith and have also been known as the Oddfellows Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. Their first lodge was the Temple on the Mount, and their purpose was to help defend pilgrims as they made their way to Jerusalem. When they were first recognized as an order by Pope Honorius II in 1129 AD, they were considered to be a branch of the Cistercian monks, as they all lived together in a closed community with a set code of conduct. So they were given permission to wear the white hood and mantle that the monks wore. They soon added a red cross, the kind where the arms are narrower in the center and flare out to be wider at the ends. Now, the worldly pleasures that knights usually enjoy, such as hunting and wearing flashy clothing, that's all forbidden. The Templars wore only a simple wool belt around their waist to symbolize their vow of chastity. They kept their hair short and their beards neat. Attendance at church services was mandatory, as was having communal meals. These monks weren't just eating porridge, though. They had to fight, so they were eating meat every other day. Now, while the knights were allowed to have personal property, the rules they played by were strict. If a brother were to break a rule, lose his sword in battle, or to be careless for their horse, they could be expelled from the order. And the Templars, as powerful as they were, well, they were a humble lot. This right here was their motto, which translates to "Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to thy name give the glory." Over the years, the Templars became businessmen and bankers. They got too rich, too powerful, and too secret. So in 1307, on a Friday the 13th no less, the King of France turned on them. He accused him of devil worship, heresy. The king thought he'd wiped him out, but the truth was that they only went underground to reemerge years later in America. Now, there's many theories that the Templars settled here long before Columbus ever entered the chat. The Kensington runestone is covered in Templar symbols and was discovered in Minnesota in 1898. But scientists dated the carvings on the rock all the way back to 1362. Now, while most Masonic groups don't claim any ties to the Templars, the Knights Templar Grand Priory of America do lay those claims. They involve themselves in the same charitable work while emphasizing chivalry and Christian ideals. The Templars even made their way to Pulaski, Tennessee. In June of 1871, a Grand Commander from another state visited and found both the scenery and the people here to be so pleasant that he constituted and consecrated Commandery No. 12 and deemed Sir James McCallum as the leader of the group. By 1883, 16 Templar commanderies had been established in Tennessee. A register of all the Templars in the state was compiled, and while I was going over this list, I noticed two things. One, there have always been quite a few chivalrous Christian gentlemen in this town. And two, while the Masons and Templars lay no claim to each other, almost every Templar listed was also a Mason. A few of the more notable mentions were Henry Arrowsmith, the sheriff of Giles County, and he's listed as single as present. Y'all know I'm going to find out what that means right there. Then we've got John C. Brown, a lawyer with a long list of accomplishments. A Master Mason and a Royal Archmason like the others on this list, he also held the title of Grand Master of all the Masons in Tennessee. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention of 1870. He served as the governor of Tennessee from 1871 to 1874, all while running the Southern Pacific Railroad. And then we've got John Samuel Childers, a simple cotton manufacturer who worked his way up to be the senior warden of the Masonic Lodge, the master of Vale, scribe and king of the chapter, and the recorder and warden of the Templar Commandery. And of course, Sir James McCallum wasn't just the head of the Templars. He topped the ranks of Freemasonry as well. Now, the Freemasons aren't quite as secret as folks like to think. You've seen their symbols. The square and compass, the all-seeing eye. The Masons of today were founded on ideals, reason, liberty, community. The Masons helped birth revolutions. With rituals full of sacred geometry and secret handshakes, rumors were bound to swirl. But the truth is that Freemasonry is simply a brotherhood instituted by upstanding men to promote a love of truth and morality and care for the needs of others through charitable acts. The aprons and vestments worn by the members are blue, a color that for them symbolizes truth and fidelity. Now, Masonry got its start in medieval Europe, where the stonemasons of the time formed guilds and used these strange symbols much like a maker's mark to identify their work. And as the need for building new cathedrals slowed down, the men spent less time discussing trade secrets and began to really lean into the moral and philosophical side of Masonry. They began referring to themselves as a lodge rather than a guild, and began accepting men who'd never laid a stone in their life, but they had an interest in personal growth and understanding the world. The degrees in Masonry are structured around the craftsman's career path. You've got the apprentice, then fellow craft, and finally Master Mason. And it's through these initiation ceremonies that moral, intellectual, and spiritual lessons are learned. Today in Giles County, we have 3 operating lodges, the one in Pulaski, one in Ardmore, and one in Bethel. Now this photo was taken in the Bethel Lodge back in January of 1986. The Masons are shown sitting in the original maple ladder-back chairs from when their lodge was built in 1850. The chairs aren't the only things still in use from then. The original altar still holds that original Bible that has presided over every meeting ever held there, along with a large painting of George Washington. And even though electricity has long since replaced candles, that original holder remains, as well as the original poplar wood flooring, though it is now covered in a blue carpet. Now the thing is, Mason's secrets aren't so secret if you just take the time to look, and you can find them all over gravestones in the South. If you see a gravestone marked with these letters, it stands for Hiram the widow's son sent to King Solomon, and it means you've come across the final resting place of a royal archmason. For a master mason, you'll find the square and compass. Now sometimes the past wants to keep its secrets, and it requires some digging. Like this one here. While we still have the Eastern Star, many of the orders didn't survive the ages, and the Mason's daughter was one of those that was popular in the mid-1800s and was founded based on the legend of Mary's guidance of Jesus into Jerusalem. Who gave us that tale? The Gospel of John. If you flip over there in your Bible, you'll see right there in lines 12 to 15 that it says, "Fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, thy king cometh." Mystery solved. A similar society grew up alongside the Masons, and the membership of both was almost equal. The Oddfellows Guild promoted ideals of philanthropy, the ethic of reciprocity, and charity. To this day, the Oddfellows provide financial assistance to college students, along with awarding one outstanding person every year for their personal service to humanity. The Oddfellows' very first meeting place was the Loyal Elks Lodge No. 9 in 1730s London. Their motto translates to friendship, love, and truth. Why choose the name Oddfellows? Well, the vast majority of jobs in the 18th century were trades, and each of those trades had a guild, much like the stonemason origin. And even back then, odd jobs needed doing, so these jacks of all trades needed their own guild, so the Oddfellows were born. George IV of the United Kingdom was admitted to the Oddfellows while he was still Prince of Wales in 1780. The Masons and the Oddfellows operate independent of each other, but King George was the first person to belong to both. And he wouldn't be the last, that's for sure. In 1819, Thomas Wildey founded the Washington Lodge No. 1 in Baltimore, turning the Oddfellows into the International Order of Oddfellows. Now, the covenant, which is the ritual for the initiation into the first degree of Oddfellowship, is said to be one of the most meaningful and beautiful of all the fellowship rituals, and it was composed by John Pawson Entwisle in 1820. Born in England 20 years earlier, John passed away in Baltimore only 4 years after he penned the covenant. And like the Masons' Eastern Star, the Oddfellows gave the women in their lives an organization of their own called the Daughters of Rebecca. Now, as much as white folks these days don't like to admit it, our ancestors have been acting a damn fool since they saw some melanated skin. Case in point, in 1843, Peter Ogden was rejected membership to the Oddfellows due to his race. Thankfully, Mr. Ogden petitioned the United Order of Oddfellows and was granted his own charter, so he formed the Philomathian Lodge No. 646 in New York City. They ran on the exact same ideals, minus the racist bullshit. They formed their Household of Ruth, the Women's Auxiliary Order, in 1858. Now, all of these fraternal orders were patterned after European benevolent secret societies, but there are a few that were born right here on American soil. The first one was the Improved Order of the Red Man, which came about in 1833 and modeled their values and rituals after Native American traditions and customs. And the earliest form of today's union was a group organized by trade workers in Meadville, Pennsylvania in 1868. They met at the Jefferson Lodge No. 1, or the Ancient Order of United Workmen. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. Their organization came about in New York City in 1868 as a social club for entertainers originally known as the Jolly Corks. Over time, they developed into a fraternal society built on charity, justice, and brotherly love. They dedicate themselves to a life of community service, patriotism, and mutual aid, and supporting veterans and providing scholarships for children. And as of the late 1900s, everyone born a U.S. citizen who is over the age of 21 and believes in God is welcome to become a member, regardless of race or gender. And as a throwback to their early days, most elk lodges have a fully stocked bar, great food, and amazing entertainment. The most notable U.S.-born fraternal society, though, would have to be the Knights of Pythias. On February 19, 1864, Justice H. Rathbone founded the Order of the Knights of Pythias in Washington, D.C., under a suggestion made by President Abraham Lincoln. See, Justice believed that the order might heal the wounds and hatred created by the civil conflicts of the time. And his initiation ritual was so filled with meaning and lesson in each sentence, and it so impressed old Abe when he read it, that he told Justice, quote, "The purposes of your organization are wonderful. If we could bring its spirit to all our citizenry, what a wonderful thing that would be. It breathes the spirit of friendship, charity, and benevolence. It is one of the best agencies conceived for the upholding of government, honoring the flag, and for rewriting for our brethren of the North and of the South, for teaching the people to love one another and portraying the sanctity of the home and loved ones. I would suggest that these great principles be perpetuated and that you go to the Congress of the United States and ask for a charter, and so organize on a great scale throughout this nation and disseminate this wonderful work that you have so nobly started. I will do all in my power to assist you in this application and with your work." And Justice Rathbone, he did just that. And the Order of the Knights of Pythias became the first fraternal society ever chartered by an act of Congress. Now, Pythianism is defined by the practical applications of religious and charitable principles to everyday life. The American flag has an honored place at every meeting, and the Holy Bible is considered the supreme book of law. And let's not forget the orders born of pain and perseverance. The Porto and Sande societies of West Africa trained leaders, healers, and warriors. When enslaved Africans were brought to the South, their traditions morphed. They became part of secret churches, the conjure women, the root doctors. For them, secrecy wasn't ceremonial, it was survival. And here we are. From ancient temples to southern lodges, secret societies have always drawn those who hunger for meaning. There are a few, though, that were only starved for power. In 1776, the same year that America declared its independence, a man named Adam Weishaupt over in Bavaria founded the Illuminati. They aimed to break the church's grip on society and spread reason rather than religion. The group was a bit sketchy from the get, and it didn't take long for the authorities to sniff them out. But the myths and the rumors, oh, those lived on. People still believe that the Illuminati controls everything from the Wall Street to the weather. In the Old South, secret societies bloomed behind columns and college walls, and that one law office here in Pulaski. The Skull and Bones up at Yale was the model, though, and our universities copied the blueprint. Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, UVA, we all had their own cloaked cabals of students wearing robes and reciting Latin, and tapping into the next generation of power. And then out there in California, senators gather with the rich and elite to burn effigies, toast under some giant redwood trees, and some say secretly control everything within the government's reach. The press, they call it a retreat. Down here, we call it a ruling class barbecue. No matter how you see it, what happens at Bohemian Grove is kept eyes wide shut secret. But symbols, that's how secrets talk without saying a word. The square and compass, the eye and the triangle, the serpent eating its tail, the skull and bones, they're everywhere once you know what to look for. On courthouses, tombstones, and your dollar bills. They whisper, not shout. They remind the initiated and tease the curious. And maybe that's the greatest power of these secret societies. They make you wonder. And maybe the real secret is that we all just want to belong to something, to matter. In a world where everything is so out in the open, we forget the beauty of mystery, the comfort of silence. Maybe, just maybe, we still need those shadows. And in a world so loud, maybe the quiet ones still hold the keys. Thank y'all for watching today. I sure appreciate it. If y'all like this video, let me know by clicking on that thumbs up down there. And subscribe for more historical content with a touch of Southern sass, and let me know down in the comments if you or anybody you know has ever belonged to one of these fraternal societies. If you can, of course. And if this video stirred something in your soul, please consider buying me a coffee to help support the channel. The links are all on the screen and down in the description. Now remember, secrets don't die. They just change hands. So until next time, y'all keep your eyes open, your voice low, and y'all be good.